Welcome back to my channel. Today we will learn about the issue that has captivated fans of The Bold and the Beautiful for weeks. This storyline represents one of the most shocking and unexpected romantic developments in recent history, involving two of the show's most prominent and complex characters. The relationship between Eric Forrester and Katie Logan has always been marked by mutual respect and professional collaboration, but recent events have transformed their dynamic in ways that nobody anticipated. As these two powerful figures navigate their complicated emotions and personal circumstances, their actions have sent shock waves through the entire community, affecting everyone around them and creating dramatic consequences that continue to unfold. In this article, we will explore every dimension of this compelling narrative, from the initial foundation of their connection through to the explosive moment that changed everything. The foundation: professional partnership and renewed connection. Eric Forrester, the patriarch of the Forrester family and former leader of the Forrester Creations, has always been a figure of authority, wisdom, and complicated romantic history. Throughout his life, Eric has experienced numerous relationships, each leaving an indelible mark on his character and shaping who he has become. His marriage to Donna Logan was tumultuous, filled with passionate moments and devastating betrayals that tested the very foundation of their commitment. When that relationship reached its breaking point, Eric found himself in a vulnerable position, questioning his choices and wondering about the paths his life might have taken differently. Katie Logan, the talented business executive and former CEO of Spencer Publications, has been recognized for her sharp intellect, business acumen, and unwavering determination. Katie comes from a family of powerful women who have navigated the complex worlds of fashion and corporate America with grace and strategic thinking. She too has experienced her share of romantic disappointments and professional challenges, including her marriages and her ongoing battles to maintain her independence in a world dominated by powerful men. Katie has always been someone who values strength, intelligence, and the ability to stand on one's own 2 feet, qualities that define her character and drive her ambitions. When Katie decided to launch her own company, a venture that represented both her independence and her vision for the future, she needed a partner she could trust completely. This is where Eric entered the picture in a new capacity. Eric, with his decades of experience in the fashion industry and his proven track record of building and sustaining successful enterprises, became the natural choice for Katie's ambitious project. Their collaboration was born from mutual respect and a shared vision, not from romantic attraction or personal connections. It was purely professional, built on the foundation of admiration for each other's capabilities and a genuine belief that together they could create something extraordinary and meaningful in the competitive business landscape.
As they worked together on this new venture, spending long hours discussing strategies, reviewing designs, attending meetings, and planning for the future of their company, something unexpected began to happen. The constant proximity and collaboration gradually transformed their professional relationship into something deeper and more personal. They shared more than just business ideas. They began to share their thoughts, their fears, their dreams, and their vulnerabilities. Late-night conversations at the office became increasingly personal, moving beyond quarterly reports and market analysis to encompass their lives, their histories, and their feelings about the present. The transition from professional colleagues to something more intimate was gradual and organic. Eric found himself increasingly drawn to Katie's intelligence, her unwavering confidence, and her ability to command respect in any room. He admired her strategic thinking, her resilience in the face of challenges, and her genuine passion for their shared project. Katie, in turn, began to see Eric in a new light. Beyond his status as a legend in the fashion industry, she discovered a man who was thoughtful, kind, and genuinely interested in her opinions and perspectives. She appreciated his wisdom, his willingness to listen, and his ability to provide guidance without being condescending or controlling. Their dinners together, initially planned to discuss business matters, began to extend far longer than necessary. They would sit across the table from each other, ostensibly reviewing quarterly reports or planning upcoming campaigns, but increasingly finding themselves drawn into personal conversations that had nothing to do with their company. They discussed their past relationships, their fears about the future, their hopes for personal fulfillment, and their reflections on the choices that had shaped their lives. These conversations created a sense of intimacy and emotional connection that transcended the professional realm in which it had originated. The chemistry between them became increasingly undeniable. There were meaningful glances that lasted just a moment too long, accidental touches that sent electric currents through both of them, and conversations that crackled with an energy that both recognized as something more than mere professional camaraderie. They began to find excuses to be alone together, to work late into the evening when the offices were empty and quiet, to collaborate on projects that could have easily been handled separately. Each found themselves anticipating interactions with the other, dressing with extra care on days they knew they would see each other, and experiencing a flutter of excitement when the other's name appeared on their calendar or in their messages. Friends and colleagues who observed them together began to notice something shifting in their dynamic. There was a softness in how Eric looked at Katie, a tenderness in how he would gently touch her arm when making a point or congratulating her on a successful business move. Katie, for her part, seemed to glow when Eric entered a room, and she found herself seeking his approval and validation more than she had ever sought anyone else's. She would laugh at his jokes with genuine delight, and she would listen to his stories with rapt attention, as though every word he spoke was precious and worth savoring. The tension between them became almost palpable, like a physical force that everyone around them could sense but that neither of them openly acknowledged. It was as if they were both aware that crossing a certain line would fundamentally change everything between them, and while that change might be wonderful, it might also be complicated, messy, and potentially destructive. They existed in a state of suspended anticipation, each waiting for the other to make the first move, each uncertain about whether their feelings were reciprocated or whether they were reading the signs correctly. As weeks passed, and the intensity of their emotional connection continued to deepen, the inevitable finally occurred. One evening, working late at the office on an important proposal, the air between them seemed to crackle with unprecedented electricity. The project they were working on had reached a critical juncture, and they found themselves celebrating a major milestone in the company's development. The success was theirs to share, a product of their combined effort, vision, and commitment to excellence. In the flush of excitement and accomplishment, with adrenaline running through their veins and emotions running high, the careful barriers they had maintained between professional and personal finally began to crumble. A moment of shared laughter led to a moment of shared gazes. A congratulatory touch on the shoulder became something more lingering and meaningful. The physical distance between them seemed to shrink with each passing second until suddenly, almost inevitably, they found themselves in each other's arms. The kiss that followed felt like a culmination of weeks of unspoken tension and carefully suppressed desire. It was passionate, tender, and filled with all the emotion that had been building beneath the surface of their professional interactions. This was not a rushed or reckless action, but rather the natural conclusion of an emotional journey that had been unfolding gradually and inexorably toward this moment. What began as a kiss evolved into something more. Hands that had previously only touched in professional contexts now explored with increasing intimacy. Words of affection and admission tumbled from their lips, confessions of feelings that had been brewing for longer than either of them had consciously acknowledged. In the privacy of Eric's office, with the city lights twinkling outside the windows and the world seemingly far away, they gave into the passion and connection they had been fighting. They made love with the intensity of two people who had found something unexpected and precious, two people who understood that they were crossing a threshold from which there might be no return. The aftermath of their intimate encounter was filled with a curious mixture of emotions. Eric and Katie felt a sense of rightness about what had transpired between them, a feeling that despite its unexpectedness, their coming together had been somehow inevitable and meant to be. They held each other in the quiet aftermath, reluctant to break the spell of the moment, speaking in soft voices about their feelings and the future they might build together. Neither wanted to face the complications that would inevitably arise from their relationship, preferring to remain in the bubble of their private world where nothing else mattered except the two of them and the connection they had discovered. However, their moment of private bliss was destined to be interrupted in the most dramatic and unexpected manner possible. The universe, it seemed, had other plans for how this revelation would unfold. As they lay together, still caught in the afterglow of their passionate encounter, still processing the magnitude of what had transpired between them, they were entirely unprepared for the shock that was about to descend upon them. Sometimes, the most significant moments in life are not ones we orchestrate ourselves, but rather moments that are thrust upon us by circumstances beyond our control, by chance encounters and unfortunate timing that forever alter the trajectory of our stories.